It's Sunday afternoon, what, about midday-ish. I don't know what time it is because my flipping battery's gone on my watch. It's about midday, Sunday afternoon. I'm out for a walk. As you may have seen on my Facebook page, I've had a bit of a busy weekend. And I'm having a walk to try and walk off some of the excesses of that weekend. As you know, I was in Wimbledon for a birthday party on Friday night. And yeah, I probably ate too much and drank too much alcohol-free beer as well. So I just want to try and walk off some of those excesses. So I'm having a lovely walk in the deep cut woods. And I thought what I would do is give you a little bit of a history lesson, right? Because there's been a lot of play made on my Facebook page in the comments to some of the videos that I've recorded recently about, oh well, it's your lot that got us into this mess in the first place. And you know, of course, I've got to take some responsibility for that as a member of the previous administration at the council. But the trouble is with this particular lot at the council who form the administration now, it's not what they say, it's what they don't say. They don't want you to know the history, okay? And also there's something else that I found out. Now I've got this second hand, so I don't know if it's true, but this is a question you might want to ask before you switch off this video because you're getting bored of me, right? This is a question you might want to ask. Do you remember how when the previous administration at Surrey Heath Borough Council were criticised heavily for paying off the previous chief executive officer? Because, you know, what is true is that that CEO was out of control. That is definitely true. But it's not as easy as you might think to get rid of a chief executive officer. Because at the end of the day, they're a paid member of staff and they're protected by employment law and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, you know, there's been a lot made, and rightly so, over what that previous chief executive officer copped for in terms of a payoff, right? When that chief executive officer departed the council. But do you remember in one of the previous videos I recorded the other day, I mentioned the finance officer, how he was summoned to Parliament? Do you remember that? He was summoned to Parliament to testify under oath about the state of the Surrey Heath Borough Council's finances. Well, what's interesting, and I found this out secondhand, I don't know if it's true, but this is a question you might want to ask, because if it is true, this will show you the hypocrisy of this particular administration at Surrey Heath Borough Council and their MP, you know, their boss, the MP, that very nice man. This is their hypocrisy. So it turns out, if the rumour is true, that the finance officer that was summoned to Parliament is no longer at the council. Now I wonder why that is. I wonder if it's because he's not singing to the tune of his political masters. I wonder if that's why. And I'll tell you what else I wonder. Was he paid off? That's what you want to that's a question you want to be asking if you want to expose some hypocrisy. Ask that question. Is the finance officer still there? I don't know. I'm not a member of that council anymore, and I'm pretty out of touch with what's going on there. Don't really pay any attention because I don't have time to sit through 5-hour meetings of administration councillors filibustering. And you've got to ask yourself why they do that as well. Why they keep standing up, asking for procedural things, you know, points of order, I think they call them. Asking every time somebody speaks, you hear one of them stand up and go, point of order, Madam Mayor. Oh, no, they're not allowed to call them Madam Mayor, are they, anymore? Got to get the pronouns right. Point of order, Mayor. And literally every 2 minutes there's somebody standing up saying point of order. You've got to ask yourself why they do that. Do you know why? Because they don't want you watching that meeting. They don't want you to know what they're talking about. They want you to switch off and put Coronation Street on instead, right? Or EastEnders. You know, it's purposeful. That's their strategy. So you might want to ask the question, is the finance officer still there? And if he's not, why not? And was he paid off? Because he wasn't singing to the tune of the administration. You might want to ask that. Anyway, I want to give you a little bit of a history lesson too, right? While I'm out on my walk, I'm going to give you a little bit of a history lesson. Because people's memories are very, very short. Very short. You've got to remember, right, that the council is made up of councillors from all parties and all walks of life. And that's the way it should be. You want a council chamber full of people from all walks of life, because that's where you get some balance, right? So when I was a councillor at Surrey Heath, you had people who were accountants, so they could add up. That's good. I can't add up, so quite happy to admit that. I'm rubbish at accounts. Finance is not one of my strong points. But you have people within your political group who can add up, right? Then you've got lawyers and solicitors and legal people. You've got property developers. You've got bricklayers. You've got eye surgeons, right? Literally, you name it, you've got every walk of life. And then you've got gobshites like me who are good at social media. Okay, so you've got a very, very wide skill set. I'm going to pause this camera because somebody's coming and I don't want them to have to be in my video. So I'll start that again in a second. So yeah, you've got people from all walks of life. And what happens is, because a great deal of the work that a council does is very technical in nature, so you take planning as an example. It's very technical in nature a lot of the time. So you are paid professionals of the council. These are experts in their particular fields who, oh, there's somebody else behind me now and somebody else in front of me. I'll have to start this again in a sec. So I found a much better place to record this where I'm not going to get disturbed. It's not that I've got anything to hide from people that are walking past me. It's just that if their faces then appear on the video and they don't want to be on it, you know, I have to start all over again, which I don't really want to do. But anyway, I'm on a little obscure footpath that people, that's a word that I use a lot lately, I've noticed, obscure. Remember those obscure committees? Anyway, so yeah, we have a lot of expertise within the political groups of all political groups in the council. So, you know, like I said, accountants, lawyers, property people, social media experts, doctors, nurses, you name it. Generally speaking, you have a very wide demographic of people who serve in council chambers of all political parties, and that's good. That's a good thing, because you want a wide knowledge base. Okay. Now the history lesson is at the time of the purchase of the square, which was then called the mall, the number one priority of the council and residents in Surrey Heath was the redevelopment, the regeneration of Camberley Town Centre. They were even talking about, you know, attracting an anchor store, someone like John Lewis and all that sort of stuff. Okay. Now, the square purchase was given to us at the time. I'm not a property developer, okay? I'm not an accountant, I'm not a lawyer, okay? But the advice we were given at the time was that it was at red book valuation, so it was a fair price, okay? I wouldn't know if it was a fair price or not, and most of the other councillors in the chamber at the time would not know if it was a fair price or not. You just go on the professional advice that you are given by the officers of the council, okay? But what we did know is that it was the priority of local residents that we sorted out the town centre, we regenerated it, and we made it the best it possibly can be. And, you know, today, fast forward to today, if you go shopping in Bracknell, ever, because Camberley's not what you're after for whatever reason, you might want to remember that, because that's what we were trying to achieve with Camberley Town Centre. And some may argue we didn't do very well, but there you go, we are where we are. That's what we were trying to achieve with Camberley Town Centre, and that's what the council now are still trying to achieve with Camberley Town Centre. I can't see that they're going to achieve that, because they only ever talk down the town centre in order to, hang on, I'm just climbing over a fallen tree. Yeah, that might not fit in with their election political rhetoric, because all they want to do is talk down the town centre so they can prove how inept the previous administration were. But yeah, they're still trying to do that. They're still trying to organise that regeneration, right? How are they going to do that? So that was one facet of it. That, you know, you got to remember, councillors are not experts. They're not expected to be, and that they only generally go on the advice given to them by paid professionals and experts. I've run out of road here, so I'm going to have to climb back over that tree and start heading back. Yeah, so that was one factor in it all. The other factor is that you can only regenerate something that you control, that you own. You know, you can't just, like, for instance, if you want to if you want to put an extension on the back of your property, you can't just say to your next door neighbour, oh, by the way, our extension is going to encroach a little bit into your back garden. You can't do that. The thing is, though, the council does have compulsory purchase powers. Okay, the only trouble with exercising those powers is that, number one, it's very, very expensive, way more expensive than if you were just going to buy it. Okay, because you've got to consult, you've got to get all your legalities in place, and that's very expensive. Okay, and everything has to be right, and it's recognised that to compulsory purchase something is far more expensive than what it would be just to buy the thing. Okay, and that's what we faced with the shopping centre in Camberley, because we wanted to regenerate the town centre, but the mall at the time, now the square, was a large part of that town centre and a large part of those regeneration plans, and they could only do that if they owned it. So the primary purpose of purchasing the square, or the mall at the time, was not to make money out of rent, although that would have been a nice little side hustle, so to speak. Okay, but the idea was actually to control the town centre so they could start their regeneration plans, right? I don't hear the current administration complaining about the other purchases that were made that are successful, like the industrial estate purchases that are doing really, really well. You don't hear them criticising that. You know, that was okay, but this wasn't. And the thing is that, as I've said, you can only regenerate something that you control. So that was the real reason why the previous administration bought them all. Okay, because they wanted to get on with those regeneration plans. Now, of course, things have changed, and as the current leader of the opposition group, the Conservative opposition group, said in the full council meeting the other day, hindsight is a wonderful thing, right? No one could have foreseen that, you know, the state of the economy and all the rest of it, right? And, you know, the nature of shopping has changed and all the rest of it. No one could have foresaw that, not even the paid professional officers that we were taking the advice from at the time. But here's the big thing. Here's the biggest dilemma that we faced as an administration. And while you hear all this stuff about incompetence and, you know, and character assassinating the previous administration, some councillors are still there. I'm going to talk about them in a minute. because they're not very happy with me at the moment either. And I'm going to talk about them in a sec. But what you have got to remember, okay, is that at the time, and this was the big thing that made us, or made the administration arrive at the decision to make those purchases. You see, the government at the time, a Conservative government, I grant you, and it was a Conservative minister, Eric Pickles. So, you know, have to take some responsibility as that, as a card-carrying member of the Conservative Party. But what the council was told, and every council in the land was told at the time, is that you've got to start becoming more self-financing. You've got to start generating revenue outside of what you're already generating now. And we as a government are going to help you do that. We were encouraged by the then government, again, I grant you, the Conservative government, to make these property acquisitions. But we decided at the time, instead of doing what other councils did, which is buying properties outside of the boroughs where they are. So, you know, there'll be examples of where councils bought shopping centres or other assets, in some cases hundreds of miles away from where that council is, right? We decided we weren't going to do that. We were going to invest in our own borough, okay? That's why, you know, you won't see in any of the property acquisitions of Surrey Heath Borough Council at that time made elsewhere, right? But we were told by the then government, the Conservative government at the time, you've got to start creating your own revenue opportunities, and we're going to lend you through an organisation called the Public Loans Work Board, which was a financing vehicle with very, very low, cheap rates, way cheaper than you as a business owner would be able to get under normal circumstances. I mean, incredibly low rates of interest. But the government said, we will give you, or we will loan you the money to make those property acquisitions, which should hopefully help you generate revenue, right? But here was the real problem. The real problem was something else that they said to us, because, and bear with me while I try and explain this, the money you pay in council tax, the money we all pay in council tax, and I'm not just talking about the small amount that the borough council gets, because you may or may not be aware of this, but all the money that is collected in council tax in Surrey, only 11% of what is collected in Surrey Heath goes to the borough council. The rest of it goes to the county council, the police, adult social care, precepts and all this sort of stuff. It's actually only 11% that goes to the borough council. It's not a lot when you consider what they have to deliver for that, okay? But we were told also at that time that we were going to enter what's called a negative RSG situation. What's RSG, you might ask yourselves? Well, all the money we pay in council tax, believe it or not, is not enough to cover the services that your councils provide, right? Nowhere near enough. So what happens is the government provide what's called a revenue support grant. That's what RSG stands for. So, you know, you might get a revenue support grant to help you fill potholes. That happened under the previous Conservative government. They gave a load of money to councils to help them fill the potholes. That was an RSG, a revenue support grant. You'll get other RSGs for other services that are provided. What Eric Pickles told all councils at that time, back then, was, well, not only are we going to cut your RSG, so we're not going to give you that anymore. That's why we want you to start creating revenue opportunities, okay? And that's why we're going to lend you the money to create those opportunities. But also, you were going to be getting a negative RSG situation. And I think if I remember right, I might have this a bit wrong, but I think at the time they were talking about a 5% negative RSG. That means we had to pay the government that 5%. So not only were they going to take away our funding, our additional funding to cover the cost of things, but we were going to have to pay the government out of the council tax we created, so that they could then fund other areas of the country that didn't have the same sort of revenue generation opportunities that we have here in the southeast. Okay, and we don't have the wealth that we have here in the southeast. So yeah, we were in a really difficult situation, and those councils at the time, those councillors at the time, were only doing what the councillors now, the administration now, are saying they're doing, which is protecting services. They were just doing the same thing. Yet they come on social media and in council meetings, really slagging off the previous administration, previous councillors, for only doing what they're doing now. And that's the hypocrisy of it, and that's the unfairness of it. At the end of the day, the MP came out on his Facebook page the other day having a go at me. He didn't say my name, but everyone knows it was me who was talking about, to say that, you know, I'm having a go at hard-working councillors who are doing it all for the right reasons, and words to that effect. And there may be an element of truth in that, but I'm only doing what they did at that time and continue to do to this day, to try and destroy what's left of a local political party. And that you might want to welcome with. You may not like me, you may not like some of the other councillors that belong to the same party I belong to. But let me tell you, I said I was going to talk about those councillors. Now, they're not very happy with me at the moment, because I am making life difficult for everyone. Said in my previous video that everyone's running around like rats in a sinking ship since I started recording these videos. And that is true to a certain degree, because now at least they're starting to consider other things which they weren't doing. They won't tell you that in public, but that's what they're doing. Because how do I know that? Well, because, you know, I still have friends and people I know that are either elected representatives at Surrey Heath Borough Council of all political parties, but also there's a few officers that I get on really well with too, and they're telling me what's going on, right? You might take it with a bit of a pinch of salt because it's second-hand, but, you know, I trust some of these people, and, you know, if they're telling me that's what's going on, then that's what's going on, okay? And that's the unfairness of it all. It's the hypocrisy that sticks. That's the claw in my throat with these people. How hypocritical they are. And, you know, that has all got to stop. And residents have said, in no uncertain terms, have said it to me, they've said it to them. Stop this blame game, and start working for your residents, because people are getting fed up with it. So I wanted to explain that, how some of those decisions were arrived at back at the time. And I might not have explained it very well. I have said before, I'm not articulate, I'm not intelligent, okay? But I do know how a council operates. I do know how it works. How do I know? Because I've been at that council, and I'm at a council now, a much bigger council, you know, with a massive budget. I think it's 1.4 billion is the budget of Surrey County Council. The budget of Surrey Heath Borough Council is minuscule in comparison. Now, I'm not saying that we're better than them. That's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is a lot goes on that you don't know about. Okay, the reason you don't know about it is because you've either forgotten or you're not paying attention. And to be fair, it's not an easy thing to pay attention to, because the area of responsibility of your local authorities, whether that's the police, whether that's your borough council, your county council, whatever it may be, you know, their area of responsibility is vast, and you can't possibly follow it all. But hopefully, if I've done anything with these videos, is started to raise some awareness about how it all works, and I'm going to continue to do that. I'm probably going to have a little break from it all at the moment, because it is starting to do my head in, to be honest. You know, but that's my personality. I'm in a fair bit of trouble, I think, over these videos. You know, there's been complaints put into the monitoring officer. There may have even been complaints put into the police, okay? Because what is absolutely clear in my mind is that this current administration doesn't like to be held to the same standards of accountability in which they held us when we were in administration at the council. And I think that our councillors, who are the councillors that are members of the same political group that I am, I think the reason why they're probably not very happy with me at the moment is because I've opened up a can of worms, and now everyone's having to work a lot harder to keep people informed. Something that I do as a matter of routine. It's baked into my DNA that I like to use my platform to keep residents informed. If you know, that's my secret sauce. That's my superpower, so to speak. You know, that I like to try and raise awareness of things going on in the council that ordinarily would be not really get the light of day. Okay, now I just want to talk about a couple of the councillors at Surrey Heath Borough Council, okay, in the political group that I belong to. So you've got the leader of that political group, a guy called Sean Garrett, right? What a lovely fella, even though he's not very happy with me right now. I have no hesitation in saying that that guy is one of the nicest, most community-spirited people you will ever meet in your life. He's a councillor on the Old Dean, which is a tough ward to be a councillor of. A lot of issues down there. He's right in the thick of all of it. And you would be very, very lucky if you had Sean Garrett as your friend, right? Family man, he's got 2 beautiful children, lovely wife, you know, and just a really, really nice guy. And when you're on social media slagging these people off as incompetent and all the rest of it, you might want to remember they're human beings just trying to do the best they can for their community. So that's Sean Garrett, great guy. And like I say, you would be very, very fortunate if that guy he counted you as a friend. Let me tell you that now, right? So then you've got, let's talk about the bag shot councillors, right? Valerie White and Mark Gordon, okay? Incredible people. Now, Valerie, how do I say this without sounding insulting? Because it's not meant to be insulting. She is a tough old bird from Liverpool. And let me tell you something, as a man that comes from a tough neighbourhood in Manchester, I can tell you, right, you don't screw with people from Liverpool, right? Because that you will not meet more fiercely loyal, more fiercely community-spirited people than people from Liverpool. They're great people. I used to have a girlfriend from Liverpool, and her family. What a great community of people they are over there. So that's a Liverpudlian, Valerie White, wonderful woman, does so much for Bagshot, okay, and she's another one that when she stood up in the council chamber the other night through that disastrous 5-hour meeting, okay, she stood up to speak, and the administration party laughed at her. No one deserves that disrespect, right? And they ought to be bloody ashamed of themselves, because that lot wouldn't have a clue what goes on in Bagshot, okay? But Valerie White does. Why? Because she's got a finger on the pulse, as has Mark Gordon, right? Another Bagshot councillor from the same political affiliation that I have. What a nice fella he is. He's the landlord of the King's Arms pub. You know, the Hungry Horse pub, right in the centre of Bagshot Village High Street? He's the landlord of that pub. What a nice fella. Another person who would literally die for his community, right? And actually, he's been in some pretty serious situations as the landlord of that pub. He's been stabbed, he's been beaten up, he's had a gun pointed at him, right? But he is absolutely fearless, and he would stand up for his community every single day. Absolutely cracking bloke. And when you're on social media slagging off the previous administration, or you're slagging off Conservative incompetence, you might want to remember that these people are out there day in, day out, serving their community and doing the absolute best that they can do. So there's three more that I want to just raise attention to. Three more members of the opposition group at Surrey Heath Borough Council, right, who you might want to consider the next time you're having a go at these hard-working councillors, right? So the first one is John Cope, or Johnny Cope rather, right? Because there's two Conservative John Copes in Surrey, but this one is our Johnny in Surrey Heath. What a nice fella! Him and his wife. I met his wife at a do we had not that long ago. Lovely couple. Genuinely some of the nicest people you will ever wish to meet. And let me tell you something else as well. He wasn't a part of the previous administration. He had absolutely nothing to do with any of that, right? But he's a super smart guy. He's a lawyer. Remember I was saying about all the skills that councillors have? A really wide skill set, different councillors. Well, he's a lawyer, this guy, and he's a bloody good one at that. And he's super clever. More cleverer than our MP, who's also a very clever guy. Very clever, very intelligent, very academic. I mean, our MP, he's a professor, apparently. I wouldn't know if he was or wasn't. He's a doctor, or he calls himself doctor. I don't know what the difference between a doctor and a professor is, to be honest with you, but very clever guy. But Johnny Cope would leave him standing, honestly. Way cleverer than our MP. And I hope one day he will become an MP, because you wouldn't have a better MP than Johnny Cope. Super intelligent, super nice, and dead honest. So that's Johnny Cope. So that's one of the other ones. I'm going to also tell you about Josh Thorne, right? Young guy, Josh Thorne. I forget what it is that he does for a living, but I think he's involved in defence. So I better not say any more about that. But he's involved in defence, and also as a bit of a spare, like a side hustle. He plays the trumpet and the bugle and all that. He's a musician, really good one too. Yeah, you'll often see him getting invited to places, really cool places. I think he did something, I can't remember where it was. It might have been Blenheim Palace, can't remember, where on a remembrance event he played the last post on the bugle, and it was very moving, very poignant, and he did a cracking job. Really nice fella. He's also the chairman of the Surrey Heath Conservative Association. Probably some people might say, oh, you're only being nice about Josh because he's the chairman, and he's probably about to kick you out of the Conservative Party. Well, if he does, maybe I'll deserve that, I don't know, but he's a bloody good councillor over at St Paul's with Johnny Cope. Really nice guy, bloody good councillor, works extremely hard for you, okay? So again, remember, when you're on social media slagging off councillors and all that, who are just trying to do the best they can, you might want to remember, just because they're not of the same political persuasion that you are, doesn't mean to say that they're not hardworking and you know, and they don't mean well, right? And then there's one more member of the Conservative group at Surrey Heath Borough Council, and that's Sashi Malvaganam, right? Now, Sashi was a member of the Liberal Democrat group, and he was involved in all the misinformation that they were putting out about the property acquisitions, and he was involved in the activity to character assassinate people like me, actually, with some of the orange bog paper that they put through people's doors, right? And I will never forgive him for that, even though he's a member of the Conservative group. You know, he's not my cup of tea, if the truth be told. He's trying his best. He's trying his best to win me over, right? But it ain't going to happen, because I'm afraid to say I cannot forgive him for the tactics that he was involved in deploying against Conservatives. So while all the others think it's a major coup, that Sashi is a member of our group. I don't see it personally. And he's also a councillor in Frimley Green. And you've heard me talk about Lord Lucan of Deach. Well, he's Lord Lucan of Frimley Green, if the truth be told. I mean him well, and I hope that he becomes a success in Frimley Green and does the best that he can. But nah. So he's the other member of the Conservative group. So long, rambling, ranty email as I walk around in Deach. Email. I said that in my last video. I mean. Little Freudian slip there. But yeah, come on. Can we not get a bit sensible about all of this? Can we not read through the party political bullshit, the bollocks that is being put out by all parties, if the truth be told? And let me tell you, I'm going to disassociate myself with the petition that was put out by the Conservatives. You know, what a load of rubbish. If you're going to put a petition out, don't add voting intentions to it. No one's going to fill that out, and they're going to see right through it. If you're going to do a petition, do a proper one, right? Because everyone saw straight through that, and quite rightly so. And if you don't believe me, I've got a WhatsApp thread with some of the people involved with that petition, and as soon as I saw it, they never spoke to me about it, they just did it, right? And you'll see if you ever see me in the street and you want to see that WhatsApp thread, I tell them in no uncertain terms, what the hell do you think you're playing at? People are going to see straight through that, and they did, and quite rightly so. So thanks for your time if you've watched this video all the way through. I doubt it, but if you have, thanks for your time, and I am available to residents. If you want to ask me any question, anything at all, no matter how difficult it is and no matter how honest you want me to be, I will tell you.